Hey, aloha everybody. Welcome to live Q&A here on Trauma Recovery University. I am your host, Athena Moberg, and I'm so excited that you've chosen to join us tonight. We have live Q&A here every single week for adult survivors of complex trauma. And I'm a survivor myself. There are survivors from all walks of life that show up here every single Monday. Our community is growing. It's amazing. And we discuss a new topic every single week, all surrounding the recovery journey from complex trauma. Complex trauma, in a nutshell, is trauma or abuse that happens over a long period of time, usually but not always in childhood. So if that is you and you're an adult survivor of any type of abuse or complex trauma, specifically childhood abuse, childhood sexual abuse, then you're in the right place and you're welcome here. And I'm so excited that you've chosen to be here tonight. Tonight's topic, it comes from questions that come in from our community. This question has been asked many times, and specifically recently it was asked by one of our community members, and that is, why can I not remain fully present? Why can I not just live in the moment? Why do I have struggle? Why do I struggle to feel and to sit with my feelings? And why do I find myself either numbing or stuffing or avoiding certain feelings or rushing my way through the day, or find myself blanking out or daydreaming or dissociating? Why do I find that it is easier for me to be in a stressful situation, and I manage stressful situations that other people don't handle well? I manage those perfectly. But then in a situation where there's no stress and no trauma, it's almost triggering for me. And it's the calm of it is very triggering for me, and I don't handle it well. Even like if I have a day off work, Athena, I'm very uncomfortable on my day off of work. But if I'm stressed out or handling a deadline, or I'm under a time constraint, or I only have a very few minutes to handle a task that would normally take somebody an hour, I seem to rise to the occasion and really shine in those moments. And interestingly, many trauma survivors find themselves feeling this way and experiencing these experiences. And what ends up happening is they find themselves in job positions that are trauma related, or a place where you're handling big tasks in a small period of time, and then over time you end up burning out. Or you find yourself in a situation where it comes time for you to need to rest or relax, or even recover from, let's say, a car accident or some sort of injury, and it's prescribed to you that you should take it easy, not be under a lot of stress, and maybe rest more, or be sort of out of commission, or even do some physical therapy, which requires some deep breathing or some mindfulness, or it's recommended to you that perhaps you should do some meditation. And these are things that are terrifying for you, and they cause you to have an increased heart rate, or sweaty palms, or dry mouth, because you find yourself more comfortable in stressful situations, or situations where you have to handle a whole bunch of things at one time. And at the same time, you sort of sense yourself going, gosh, I feel like I'm under a lot of stress and I don't really know how to handle that. But it's almost like you go back and forth. So a lot of trauma survivors share stories like this in our support groups. It's not uncommon for trauma survivors, people who have survived complex trauma over a long, prolonged period of time, usually in childhood, not always. They find themselves saying these things, and people are speaking up. Me too, me too, me too, me too. I thought it was just me. I thought it was just me. Well, it's not just you. And we're going to pull it apart. And if this feels a little advanced and your head is spinning right now, if you're feeling triggered or if this is too much for you, please just feel free to step away, come back and watch anytime, or maybe this video isn't even one that's helpful for you. And that's totally fine. We have over 200 hours of video that you can watch on our YouTube channel. Just simply search for Trauma Recovery University. We also have a Roku TV channel. You can search for us on Roku just by simply searching for Trauma Recovery University. You can also reach myself. You can go to my website, athenamoberg.com. You can get access to a whole bunch of our resources at nomoreshameproject.com. You can reach Bobby Parrish at bobbyparrish.com or thetraumarecoverycoach.com. And I'm just excited that you're here. Welcome. That's a little bit of what we're going to talk about tonight. This is live Q&A, so you guys are popping in your questions, and our amazing moderator, Dawn, is handling everything, and I will be reading through your questions and answering your questions after I do tonight's screen share, which will likely answer a lot of the questions that you might have. So I will go through the screen share, and then if questions come in and I did answer them, or I for the most part answered them in the screen share, I'll refer back to the screen share when I answer you, or we'll go ahead and we'll answer your questions as they come in. So if you guys all want to send our awesome other moderator, Matt Pappas, a tweet. He is on a very much needed vacation, and he is located on Twitter, if you guys are on Twitter, at Surviving My Past. So say hi to Matt. He's vacationing with his family right now, much needed break away, and Dawn is manning the helm, and she's amazing, and she's at Song Warriors. So thank you so much to everyone in our community. Thank you especially to Creep Central Broadcast and Lindsay and Elizabeth and Jennifer, and I'm forgetting, there were several of you that responded last week and reached out and said, I'm happy to help you. I'm happy to volunteer in the community and help in any way I can, Athena. So I'm working with my assistant to try to coordinate a way to get you guys all set up so that you feel fully equipped and ready to volunteer in our community to help the growing community of survivors that we have here on this YouTube channel and in all of the support groups and just on all of the other Twitter chats that are out there for survivors. There are so many YouTube channels. If I'm not your cup of tea, it's totally fine. Like perhaps our videos here on this channel are not for you. That's totally fine. There are so many amazing YouTube channels with lots of resources and educational content and calming videos, and there are apps on your smartphone and just different things that you can access for free that will help you feel better today if you are realizing that you're a survivor of complex trauma or any type of childhood abuse. So without further ado, I am going to go ahead and peek over at our screen share, bring that up for you guys. I want to say a very special welcome to a whole bunch of you guys that are on YouTube. I can't see you guys right now, but if you're sending in some questions, I just want you to know that we will do our best. I will do my best to answer every single one of them. So for right now, just to give you guys some time to send in your questions to Dawn, and then for her to go ahead and post those, and then I can answer them for you. I'm going to do our screen share, and I want to encourage you to check the links in the video description. Over in the YouTube chat box up towards the top, there are a whole bunch of links also to resources that were used in the research that was conducted for tonight's topic. So it is a multi-pronged topic, and it is a bit sticky to pull apart and to understand how everything plays together. So I'm going to do my very best to explain this to you guys. If this is a topic that's on the top of your list and you're excited about it and you want me to go in further depth, want me to go more in depth, then please let me know in the comments below this video after the video is posted in a couple of hours. So here we go. Let me know if you guys can see the screen share. And also, if this video or any of our videos on this channel are helpful for you, could you please give them a thumbs up? We don't receive any compensation for any of our videos, and we can't run ads on them because of the content being sensitive, and it's not advertiser friendly because it uses the word childhood sexual abuse, and that's not something people want to advertise on. So the best way for you guys to contribute, which you ask me every week, how can I contribute, Athena, is give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, hit the little bell to get notifications whenever we go live. And that's the best, most awesome way that you guys can participate and support the work of this YouTube channel. So thank you, and let me know if you can see the screen share. I hope you can. Let's see, I hope you guys can see the screen share okay. It says it's working, but it's so hard to tell if it's working completely. Okay. Okay, so I hope you guys can see this well. And so tonight's topic, again, was sent in by a whole bunch of you, but I'm quoting community member G. I'm just going to refer to them as G. And G says, Athena, why is it we can never live in the moment? We're either reviewing the past, worrying about the future, or distorting and dissociating in the present. It's exhausting and self-defeating. Now, we're also going to go into the topics mentioned up here, which are mindfulness, meditation, and toxic shame. And they're all very connected as it pertains to this question, which is why trauma survivors struggle to live in the moment. Now, living in the moment, oftentimes, if you're speaking to somebody that is very familiar with or is a practitioner of dialectical behavioral therapy, which is DBT, they will say mindfulness. Mindfulness is the key. It is something that is going to help you. You're going to be fully present in your body. It will help you if you're triggered. And while that can be true sometimes, it is also very, very possible that being fully present in your body could be something that is not safe if you have not addressed any of your trauma ever whatsoever. So be very, very careful with DBT and mindfulness if you have not addressed any of your trauma previously. Now, a lot of people talk about meditation and how meditation is the key to their success. It's the key to their life. And everything they're able to accomplish in their life is as a result of the first 15 minutes of their day. They meditate, they do deep breathing exercises, they practice mindfulness, and that's what they credit as being the key to everything positive and wonderful in their life. Now, if this person that is sharing this with you is someone that is familiar with toxic shame or has experienced toxic shame, then the only way that meditation and mindfulness are something that is the key to their success is if they have addressed their trauma. If any of you guys see Heather Tuba out there tonight, say hi to Heather Tuba. Heather Tuba was in attendance at one of the trauma conferences that I really wanted to attend last April, but I was unable to due to the sale of our home and us relocating. Now, at this trauma conference, there was some discussion about toxic shame and about treating anyone who is a trauma survivor and or grew up in an environment that was shame-based. Now, I mentioned in some of the comments in the YouTube chat box earlier, I asked you some questions regarding toxic shame or ways that you may have grown up with caregivers that shamed you through their tone of their voice or their body language. So I want any of you that are currently experiencing triggers, even just by the brief discussion that we've had so far, I would love for you to make sure that you reach out to our friends over at RAINN. That's RAINN.org. It stands for the Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network. Or you can also reach out to the Crisis Text Line. And I have all the information over in the YouTube chat box. All you have to do is page up to the top. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Jody Betty and several other of our community members have tweeted out and shared links to areas where you can receive 24/7 support. And RAIN.org is one of those. CrisisTextLine.org is another one. 1in6.org is another one. And I just want to make sure that if you're triggered right now, or if this discussion is triggering for you, that you're receiving the care and just the comfort and the care that you deserve, because you are an adult now and you're not forced to be in a traumatic situation. And if this conversation is traumatizing for you, I do not want to traumatize you further. I want you to receive the care that you deserve. So please, please, please reach out. This is not crisis care here during this chat. So you matter and you're worth it. And I don't want you to participate if it means sacrificing your own well-being, okay? It's the absolute opposite of what we want. So community member G sent in the question, why is it that we can never live in the moment? And honestly, you guys, what an excellent and applicable question for the millions of adults who may someday, if not right now, be watching this video, and they may be currently living with unresolved complex trauma. So as usual, tonight, here at Trauma Recovery University, we're all going to break this down together, all of us. I'm going to be answering your questions. This is live Q&A. If you are here on Monday, July 17th, 2017, simply go over to YouTube, and there is a chat box, and I want you to get your questions answered. I'll answer as many as I possibly can within the next 60 minutes. Okay, so we're all going to break this down together into several small pieces as we discuss the reasons why many adult survivors of complex trauma living with CPTSD symptoms may often struggle. So if this describes you and you're unable to live in the moment or remain fully present, both with yourself or with others, perhaps you spend hours catastrophizing only to later find yourself too exhausted to appreciate the somewhat good day you may have had, or you may find yourself dissociating your way through meetings, the better part of your workday, or even on your nightly drive home from your kids' extracurricular activities. Then tonight we're going to uncover some things for you, and if you want to take notes, then please do go ahead and take notes. Pause this video, come back. This is going to be a very educational hour for you, and I want you to receive the support that you deserve. So closely related to the above mentioned concerns here, up above here, closely related, okay, something happened with my computer. I apologize. It just flickered and went off, and now it's back on. I'm hoping you guys can still hear me. So closely related to the above mentioned concerns, which many trauma survivors share in our support groups, is the all too familiar experience of being able to expertly handle a seemingly impossible crisis with the utmost grace and calm, even with a smile on our face, while we sometimes struggle to accomplish the tiniest of tasks, such as sorting a pile of papers, tidying our email inbox, popping in a load of laundry, balancing the checkbook, or washing a few dishes in the sink. All the while we're wondering, where the heck are these moments of so-called peace hiding? I chase after them only to discover that this feeling of total zen that everyone raves about has somehow eluded me. I mean, what the heck? You may find yourself wondering, why do I seem to feel more at ease and comfortable when there is a crisis to handle, an impossible deadline to meet, or even a last-minute emergency with my children than I do at a spa day or even on my day off from work? So to tackle this uncomfortable and multi-pronged topic, I want to introduce and address the concept of toxic shame. Now, it's really worth you guys Googling this or even looking into Peter Levine's work. Peter Levine is amazing. There are also some links in the video description below this video right now to documents that were used in the research that was conducted for tonight's topic. So we're going to be talking about all of this, and as it relates to toxic shame, all of it as it pertains to you, the survivor of complex trauma. So John Bradshaw says, to be shame-bound means that whenever you feel any feeling, any feeling, any feeling or need or drive, you immediately feel ashamed. The dynamic core of your human life is grounded in your feelings, needs, and drives. When these are bound by shame, you are ashamed to the core. And that's from John Bradshaw's book, Healing the Shame That Binds You. Complex trauma survivors have reported feeling comfortable or in their groove when they are in crisis or under time constraints, while also reporting feelings of increased stress or even triggers in calm or peaceful environments. The reason for this is more simple than we may have originally thought. It has been discovered that hypervigilance, there's that word that we're also used to, is how they successfully survived during ongoing trauma. Over time, being on the lookout or cool under pressure helped them to prepare to handle the next wave of trauma. Historically, many complex trauma survivors sought help and tried popular mindfulness techniques or meditation without first addressing their trauma in a healthy therapeutic environment. Many of these survivors reported experiencing overwhelming feelings of pain and shame for what seems like no reason whatsoever. Some have even reported feeling constantly frozen and unable to speak, an unpleasant or corrosive itching feeling of the skin, as though you touch the skin itself and it's burning, or even a desire to sink through the floor. These are feelings rooted in toxic shame, which eventually led to porous and weak ego boundaries and many times people-pleaser syndrome. It was reported that survivors sacrificed their overall well-being over and over in hopes of finally feeling better or finally feeling accepted. Sadly, what their subconscious mind concluded was that all feelings hurt, and it may be safer to not feel anything. Some survivors at this point became emotophobic. Now, this word here, emotophobic, if you Google emotophobic, it will take you to a word. It thinks that you're talking about emetophobia, which is the fear of vomiting. You have to tell Google, no, I'm not talking about emetophobia. I'm talking about emotophobia, EMOTAPHOBIA, or C. So if you look that up, it will simply boil it down for you and explain that emotophobia is the fear of feeling, the fear of emoting. And that is so common in a lot of trauma survivors. Many of you that are here present right now tonight have messaged me privately and in our groups publicly and sent me private emails and DMs and messenger messages and voicemails talking about the fear of emoting. I'm just numb. I feel more comfortable when I'm numb. I don't want to feel. I'm afraid to feel. When I feel, all I feel is pain. It always leads to pain. Why is that? So to understand why this phenomena happens, we need to understand the root and the nature of trauma. Complex trauma is the result of our nervous system being overwhelmed by ongoing experiences which we are unable to tolerate and process. This can be the result of repeated, even seemingly life-threatening stressors. Doesn't have to be truly life-threatening, okay? The brain processes emotional pain the same as it does physical pain. Remember that. So if you are feeling or experiencing repeated, what seems like life-threatening stressors that are accumulating over time, all trauma is particularly devastating if we're young and vulnerable, which is precisely why early traumatic experiences tend to have deep impacts, which as adults, we may be completely unconscious of. Now, this doesn't mean that we're unaware of it, okay? It doesn't mean we think that our life is perfect and everything's awesome. It means that we're not conscious of our trauma. It's not something we're immediately aware of in the present moment. It's not something that, like, if you're conscious of something, you're conscious that there are 7 days in a week, 24 hours in a day. And when the sun is out, it's light out. And when it's dark out, it's usually time you're going to be sleeping, unless of course you work a swing shift or something. Things that you're conscious of. Like, you're conscious of when someone walks through the front door or someone rings the doorbell. You're conscious of the fact that you smell a certain food that's cooking. Okay. Now, if you're aware of something, you're like, yeah, I guess it sort of happened, and it doesn't mean that. So when you are unconscious of something, it's not something you're thinking about in the present moment. You're not consciously focused on it. So if we are unaware of the depth of our trauma, or we have not processed our trauma, this is key right here. If we have not processed our trauma, okay, processing our trauma is a big deal. If we are not aware of the depth of our trauma, or we have not processed our trauma with a trauma-informed practitioner, we may innocently assume mindfulness is a great idea, and that all it can do is help us to experience this peace and Zen-like state that everyone raves about and achieves. Tragically, this is sometimes the farthest thing from the truth. Why? Because mindfulness meditation can reopen these old wounds, and without appropriate support, anyone can get lost in these deeply painful experiences. Not just trauma survivors, not just you, not just adult survivors of childhood sexual abuse. Anyone who practices mindfulness without processing their prior trauma can reopen old wounds, and without appropriate support, they can get lost in these deeply painful experiences. So a lot of you have messaged me talking about how you're feeling lost. I just feel lost. All I feel is pain. I feel so lost. So many excellent mindfulness and meditation techniques bring our focused attention to our body sensations. So you guys, you've been here for a while, and if this is your first night, welcome, welcome. I'm so excited you're here. But if you're an adult survivor of childhood sexual abuse, and mindfulness and meditation bring our focused attention to our body sensations in the moment or in a methodical way, then that's a red flag. That's why we're experiencing so much pain. And while, yes, we do need to feel all of our feels if we're ever going to heal, you can't do it all on your own. You have to have a trauma-informed practitioner. And we have to do it over time, and we have to make sure we're doing it in a safe way. So while mindfulness and meditation techniques, I already read that, sorry. While this can be a great tool, meaning mindfulness and meditation, while it can be a great tool to develop sensitivity and self-awareness, as complex trauma survivors sensitize themselves to their bodies, they may end up encountering previously unconscious trauma that you were not aware of in the moment. You weren't really thinking about it. You didn't even remember in the moment that that was something you experienced. This explains a lot. In fact, it sheds a lot of light on why so many trauma survivors struggle. Many of you share that living in the moment is difficult, or remaining fully present is painful or impossible if we learn to meditate or be mindful. Now, meditation and mindfulness makes us fully present in our bodies, which causes us to relive painful memories if we haven't processed our trauma. So that's why we struggle there, right? Many trauma survivors struggle with that, and many trauma survivors struggle with catastrophizing. But see, catastrophizing, like we learned above earlier on, this is how we were expertly prepared to survive during our complex trauma. Over time, we learned how to prepare ourselves to stay alive and avoid future trauma. How? Through hypervigilance and catastrophizing. And then lastly, dissociating, which is the third thing we're talking about tonight. We dissociate our way through meetings, the better part of our work days, or even the nightly drive home from our kids' extracurricular activities. And the reason for that is because feeling any feelings, where is that quote? Feeling all feelings hurt. All of it. all feelings hurt. They're overwhelmed by any feelings that come about. Any feelings that come about are scary for us if we're living with toxic shame. And that's when we become emotophobic. So it's all connected, okay? But now this is where we get to the good news, okay? So for the next 15 minutes, we're going to talk about how to feel better today and the good news and how to embrace the idea of feeling better. So any questions that you guys have, feel free to go ahead and send those in on YouTube or even on Twitter using the hashtag #NoMoreShame, and I'll do my best to get to them. So first we're going to talk about titration. Okay, if that's the first time you've ever heard of this word titration, titration is key to trauma recovery. And this is part of Peter Levine's work that I talked with you guys about earlier. Lori Gill, who runs the Trauma and Attachment Center up in Canada, close to Niagara Falls, that's the gal who held the conference that Heather Tuba attended back in April that I was talking about. She talks a lot about titration being the key to trauma recovery. Now, titration, now if we can just focus for a moment now, pretend that we're chemists. This is a chemistry term, titration. Titration is a concept borrowed from chemistry that Peter Levine, creator of the somatic experiencing method, uses to illustrate how to approach traumatic material. Peter Levine gives the example that if one were to mix two reactive chemical compounds all at once, the result would be an explosion. However, if one uses a glass valve and mixes them one drop at a time, slowly, the result would be safe. Each drop creates a small, manageable fizzle. The same principle applies when working with trauma, specifically complex trauma, especially child sexual trauma. So if we are able to turn our attention back and forth between sources of support, that's your trauma-informed practitioner, who's helping you to experience pleasant bodily sensations, views, or touch, and we move back and forth between that and the safer edges of a difficult inner experience, meaning just the outer edges of your trauma at first, then we have a much better chance of working effectively with the traumatic material than if we try to simply stay present with the trauma all at once, which is never a good idea. Yes, we want to address the trauma. Yes, we need to feel all of our feels if we're ever going to heal. Yes, we need to stop numbing, stuffing, and avoiding. Yes, we need to be mindful of the content that we are consuming, but we need to do it in a way that is safe and under the care of a trauma-informed practitioner. We can't just do it all on our own. If you have never experienced any therapeutic modalities, if you've never experienced a therapeutic relationship with someone who's trauma-informed, if you are just now at the very beginning stages of your trauma recovery journey, you're just now having memories of your complex trauma, you're figuring out what CPTSD is, then I highly, highly suggest, I genuinely encourage you to seek out a trauma-informed therapist, counselor, or social worker so that you can receive the care you deserve. Because honestly, all the YouTube videos in the whole wide world, that they're going to help you and they're going to educate you, but I don't want any of them to further traumatize you, and that's a very real concern, okay? Here we are, we're starting here at this bold area, we're going to go back. This takes a great deal of skill and is very difficult to do without support. Now, this word support, this is not just the word support like being here among peer support. Peer support is excellent, and it is a wonderful, necessary supplement to trauma-informed care and professional medical care. But if you are just now learning of your trauma and you haven't been in therapy or counseling or meeting with a social worker or someone that is helping you to embrace the idea of what it looks like to become healthy and process your trauma in a healthy way, then please consider doing that, because I don't want you to be re-traumatized. So we're going to go on here. If we don't know how to titrate or skillfully work with the challenging sensations that may arise, we may end up re-traumatizing ourselves. And that's what can happen on YouTube sometimes, you guys. It's happened to me personally. And it's not something that I obviously did on purpose, but I did re-traumatize myself several times in the beginning of my healing journey. I mean, back 17 years ago, like when the internet was just brand new and all we had was Alta Vista, I wasn't on the internet searching for any trauma resources. I was in my local library and I was looking for books. And I was in my yellow pages looking for places to go meet with someone so that I could work through some of my issues. So the likelihood of me re-traumatizing myself was rather slim. However, now in this day and age and in my second, third, and even fourth wave of my recovery journey, excuse me, I need to get a drink of water. Sorry about that. I could feel my throat getting like super itchy, like I was going to start coughing in your guys' ears. So the likelihood of me re-traumatizing myself back in like the late 90s, early 2000s was rather slim because I was in the library and I was reading books and I could digest them at a relatively normal pace. But now, like I said, in my second, third, and even fourth wave of my trauma recovery journey, when I remember new memories or I go deeper and, I'm not staying on the safer edges of my trauma and difficult inner experience. I'm actually delving deeper into the core of my trauma, right? It is much more likely that I'm going to re-traumatize myself, especially if the primary source of information that I'm getting is from the internet via videos, articles, scholarly articles, medical journals, blog posts, that type of thing. So we can re-traumatize ourselves so much more quickly and easily and without even knowing it during this day and age because we are in the age of information. This is just it's a technology age. We have access to so much information. So please always seek the help of a trauma-informed practitioner. Always, 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 okay? You deserve that. And I know many of you live in outlying areas where trauma-informed care is not discovered yet. And in that case, yes, slowly but surely look on the internet, find a way to educate yourself, become your own best advocate. Look into the term, Google the term self-advocacy. And there's even a YouTube video that I've done on self-advocacy. Harriet, could you pop up the videos, the links on the YouTube cards on the screen right now for hypervigilance, which I mentioned earlier, and then also list that below. And then also the one on trauma-informed care, and then another one on, oh my goodness, there's one on self-care that I would love for you to pop up if you can and put below. There's going to be more. There'll be more. I'll make sure that they're listed below in the description section, okay, guys? If they're not popping up like YouTube cards on the screen or on your mobile device, then check the description section of this video and you'll have links to all the different videos that you should be looking at, okay? So this is part of the good news, okay, guys? This is the good news and how to embrace the idea of feeling better. Well, first of all, is titration. That's a really, really, really big deal. And being involved with a trauma-informed practitioner. That's what we just spoke about. Now, secondly, we are born to grow and develop. We are born to grow and develop. We all have an intrinsic desire, meaning we're born with it, to grow and develop. Depending on our upbringing and our trauma history, this is a big one here, your trauma history, our true potential can get crowded out by our toxic programming. You guys, this is a big deal. If you haven't listened to the World Narcissistic Abuse Awareness Day interview with, oh goodness, I believe his name was Steve. oh my goodness, now I forget his full name. He talks about the hypnotic trance that is triggered in us when we hear our abuser's voice, or when we receive a call from them, or a message from them, or a card from them, or a letter from them, or an email, or a Facebook post, or a DM. And it's you're triggered back into your toxic programming. And if there was a shame-based environment, and you grew up in a toxically shame-based environment, then you are triggering a mindset that is an inner critic, and it's that voice that plays over and over and over in your head, okay? And that toxic programming it results in a harsh inner critic. It results in limiting beliefs, meaning that you don't believe that you'll accomplish what you're really able to accomplish. You have overwhelming emotions, and you have blocks, which can mask who we really truly are. We don't even see our full potential because we have these blocks, right? And they come from our toxic programming. This is real. I could literally have an entire YouTube channel on toxic programming, the toxicity that comes from listening to the shame-based environment we grew up in, and how it creates blocks, and how we don't see who we truly are and what we're truly worth, and how valuable we are and what we are capable of. We were born to grow and develop, and we lose sight of that because of our toxic programming, okay? So it's really, really, really key for you guys to understand that part and to take it seriously. There are so many of you guys that message me, and you have LOL. LOL, you're joking when you're talking about no contact, like it's a joke. Like, oh, I don't think I can ever go no contact, LOL. I don't know how you do it. You're better than I am, LOL. And it's like, no, it's a matter of life and death. Toxic programming will cause us to have suicidal ideation, because deep, 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 deep down, we are not able to access the parts of us that were born to grow and develop. All we're thinking about is our toxic programming, which is that we'll never amount to anything. We're just trash. We're just like so-and-so. We're never going to amount. We have all these blocks. We have all these limiting beliefs. We have this harsh inner critic that doesn't allow us to do anything good. And if we do something good, we can't celebrate our goodness, because that makes us selfish and prideful, and we get overwhelmed easily. And that all comes from our toxic programming. And going low contact or no contact with toxic family members is key to your sanity. It really is. So it's not a LOL. It's not a joke. It's not funny. Like, it's really serious, and it's life altering when you are able to go low contact or no contact with toxic loved ones. Okay. So the good news is we can all make a daily choice to begin to reconnect with our innate capacities. A great trauma-informed therapist, counselor, or social worker can help you develop safe mindfulness techniques. That's not diving straight into like full body experiences. Safe mindfulness techniques. You got to learn some self-compassion. A trauma-informed practitioner can help you with self-awareness, emotional intelligence. Ooh, by the way, our friend Richard Grannon, he's all about emotional intelligence lately. He's all about emotional intelligence. He even has, I believe it's an emotional intelligence course that he has on his website. Go to SpartanLifeCoach.com. I can't remember. His link is down in the description section of this video, because I used one of his blog posts on toxic shame as part of research today. But emotional literacy is what he's, but literacy and intelligence are literally the same thing. And I'm using literal in the literal sense. Literacy is understanding and knowing something and applying it, and intelligence is understanding something and knowing it, and then knowledge is applying it, and wisdom. So, but emotional intelligence is something that a trauma-informed practitioner can help you with. But without self-compassion and self-awareness, all the mindfulness techniques in the world and all of the emotional intelligence in the world isn't going to reach the core of our being. We have to have a way to access self-compassion and self-awareness. And the way we do that is through a great trauma-informed practitioner, okay? A great trauma-informed practitioner can also help you with distress tolerance and a lot of other qualities which aid in the process of transformation and healing. Once you have actively participated in these therapeutic treatments, you will then feel more confident in your daily life, and eventually you may choose to meet with a trauma-informed coach who will walk beside you through any ups and downs you experience in your healing journey. Remember, a great coach will collaborate with you every step of the way as you gain a better understanding of the nature of your difficulties, while simultaneously uncovering your unique gifts, talents, strengths, and abilities. Finally, you will begin reaching your recovery goals while experiencing what it feels like to be finally free from the daily shame, triggers, and emotional flashbacks you once experienced. Now, all of this being free from now, this is what all of us want right here, to be finally free from the daily shame, triggers, emotional flashbacks that we experience. But this does not happen overnight, and it doesn't happen by delving into mindfulness, meditation, and trying to be fully present all the time, because we have to like it says here, like Peter Levine uses this word, I love this word, titration. We have to titrate it. We have to go drop by drop by drop, because then it will create a small manageable fizzle rather than an explosion. When we experience the explosion, that is what we're experiencing when we're flown into a huge emotional flashback that lasts days and days and days. We're very, very emotionally distressed. We're unable to ground ourselves. We're unable to function. We get frozen in time. And what we want is this small, manageable fizzle. We want to be able to dance around the safer edges of our trauma first before we delve into the deep, deep, deep part of it, so that we don't re-traumatize ourselves. This is what we do not want right here. We do not want to be re-traumatizing ourselves. Okay? So here we go. We are going to talk about how to feel better today. Okay? Number one, we're going to seek validation, compassionate dialogue, and accountability from other survivors. You're already doing it. Here you are. You're here right now, and you are seeking validation, compassionate dialogue, and accountability from other survivors. Even if you're here on a replay, you reached out, you're watching it, and you know that there are other people here in the comment section of this video that will likely respond to you if you were to post a comment. So you're already doing this part. You're already ahead of the game. There can be tremendous healing in seeing how much your debilitating after effects of complex trauma match up with others who have gone through similar circumstances. The shackles of shame can fall to the ground when we hear the words, "Me too." Number two, seek validation, compassionate dialogue, and accountability from trauma-informed helping professionals. They can help you to feel less alone and encourage you in making healthier daily choices through tools like tracker sheets, journal topics, and just by being trauma-informed. And then it's always good to note having a trauma-informed professional to meet with regularly can be life-changing for you and even life-saving. Number three, begin to speak out loud or in a virtual or local support group about your daily and weekly goals. You can start as slowly as you like, and I want to add right here, I want to add on starting as slowly as you like. You can also start as small as you like. Your goals can be small, like perhaps brushing your teeth is something that you really struggle with because you were some trauma that you experienced at a very young age was oral in nature. So make your goal to be that you brush your teeth once a day or twice a day. Or perhaps you want to be able to attend a function without feeling anxiety and needing to excuse yourself to go to the restroom. That's a goal, right? So if you begin to speak out loud in either a virtual or local group about your goals, then people will start asking you, hey, how did it go? And that always feels really nice. Sharing your truth with those who will provide safe, non-judgmental support allows you to examine your behaviors in the light of day, rather than continuing to keep them locked up in the dark recesses of your mind. Shame cannot survive in community. So powerful, you guys. Shame cannot survive in community. This toxic shame that we feel that keeps us from being fully present with our kids, the toxic shame that we feel and the triggers we have, as a result of the toxic shame, the toxic shame that we feel as a result of our trauma, and it gets triggered whenever we try to do any type of meditation or mindfulness, all of that can improve when you are in safe community with others. Number 4, do your best to begin intentionally surrounding yourself with those whom you have identified as safe people. Making the choice to start eliminating toxic or shame-inducing people. Eliminating toxic or shame-inducing people. That's big. Making the choice to start eliminating toxic or shame-inducing people from our sphere of influence is truly one of the most radical acts of self-love and self-compassion we can make. And remember, safe people are respectful of your healthy boundaries. Your whole life can change with just these 2 components, meaning safe people and healthy boundaries. Okay? Those two things are very, 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 very life-changing. Safe people and healthy boundaries. As an adult survivor who is over 18 years of age, know that you are the only one who will be in control of your recovery and your daily habits. You may choose to maintain relationships with your family of origin if you choose to do so. You can move as slowly as you wish. Only you get to determine which choices you make or changes you consider. Only you, not your family, not your friends, not your boss, not your pastor, not your therapist, not your coach. Only you get to determine which choices you make and which changes you want to make in your life, okay? No one's responsible for it except for you. Know that your recovery will likely not be the same as someone else's. This is big. Oftentimes we look to others to sort of see if we're on the right track. But everyone's healing journey is unique, and someone else's specific goals and habits might not be something in which you agree with or that you're going to choose for yourself. Comparing our recovery progress to someone else's is rarely helpful and oftentimes very damaging. So make the choice to join in safe community with other survivors. There are several free groups and other low-cost and affordable groups, especially for adults who are living with CPTSD symptoms. You deserve to receive acceptance, support, and encouragement. And when you finally receive non-judgmental support, you will begin to heal and recover from your trauma at an exponential rate, meaning it will feel like you're healing faster because you're finally receiving the support you deserve. There is strength in numbers. Choosing to be actively involved in safe community will help you to feel stronger and less ashamed. To get plugged into a virtual safe support community where you can practice new skills and become adept at creating healthy habits, see the About page on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Trauma Recovery University TV. Or you can also go to athenamoberg.com and you can find information there as well. So let me know what questions you guys have. I'm sure you already have a lot of them coming in. I'm hoping you do at least, so that I can answer your questions. And let me know if that screen share was helpful for you. It's one of my favorite that I've ever done, and it's on some of my favorite topics. I do love talking about safe people and healthy boundaries, and I love talking about trauma-informed care. I love sharing with you guys the reality that is trauma-informed care. Not everybody is trauma-informed, and not everybody understands how to be trauma-informed and like what a big deal it is, okay? So one second while I get some water. Trauma-informed care is priceless. That's all I have to say. It will help you with every single skill that you're working towards and that you feel like you're missing out on in your life. And, you know, for any of you that are struggling with the whole idea of, I thought everyone talks about being mindful and what a big deal it is, and I thought meditation is the key, and and I thought I'd already worked through all of my shame issues. You know, none of this is a one and done, and none of it is linear. And while it might be simple for me to lay it all out on a one page like this for you, it doesn't mean that it's easy. So I don't want you to feel like you're behind the pack and that you're running far behind everybody else, because you're not. Everybody heals at their own rate, and you are doing all you can, and you're here, you're watching this video. So I just want to encourage you guys in that way. Let me see if I can see some of your questions here. Welcome, 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 Gabby Kitty. I'm so excited you're here live. I know that you mentioned in the comments when we were messaging that you were going to be here live tonight, so I'm super glad that you made it. Welcome. I hope everybody gave you the warm welcome that you deserve, and invite anybody else you might know that you've met that could feel all alone in their journey. But in the meantime, just sit back and enjoy the support you're receiving, hopefully. We're glad you're here. Okay. Hunter says, Athena, how do you get to the point of accepting being fully present in the body given that will make you much more vulnerable to body memories? Ooh, yeah, that's a big one. Body memories are real, you guys. To answer your question, Hunter, I would say taking it slow. And I was wondering if you, I know that we've talked about this before, Hunter, but have you read Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk? And have you looked into Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker? And then have you read Peter Levine's work on somatic experiencing? The somatic experience? I'm not sure exactly the name. The direct answer to your question, Hunter, is that it takes time. It's going to take some time, and the way you even worded the question, being fully present in the body that was given, that will make you so much more vulnerable to body memories. Vulnerability is something that a lot of survivors struggle with because their vulnerability was capitalized upon and invaded, and there were so many survivors that their vulnerability was something that was considered a weakness because it got them abused, right? Well, interestingly and paradoxically, our vulnerability now as an adult is actually like our superpower. Vulnerability is my superpower. And what I mean by that is it takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable, but my choosing courageously to show up vulnerably opens me up to not only a potential of experiencing body memories and other things that might be painful, but to tremendous amounts of healing that I normally would never have experienced. Because to the degree that we're able to show up vulnerably, that is to the degree that we're able to heal deeply. And so, but I would say take it slow. Don't try to rush it, Hunter, because I don't want you getting re-traumatized. It's going to take some time. I know that's not the answer you want. I'm so sorry, but it's going to take some time. And having a good trauma-informed therapist is going to be life-changing for you. So I'm hoping that that's helpful for you. John Harvey says, why can't I stay present in relationships? I can never focus because I'm always waiting for something bad to happen. That has a lot to do with the fact that your trauma happened in relationship. And so relationships are a trigger for you. You weren't abused in a vacuum with no one there. You were abused because you were in relationship with someone, a close relationship likely. And since the relationship you had with this person who abused you was likely one where you were vulnerable and you felt safe with them, you trusted them. And so now when you are in a relationship with anyone, you struggle to be fully present. You might be a little bit of an emotive phobic, where feeling any emotions it's painful for you. And that has to do with toxic shame. And relationships are going to be triggering for you until we get you to a place where you're able to work on sitting with the safer edges of your trauma, working through those until you can get to your core issues. But it might be a little premature to be in in an intimate relationship with anyone, since your abuse or your trauma likely happened within the context of a safe, in air quotes, relationship, someone that you trusted. Again, not the answer. These are hard answers. These are not like fluffy, yay, everything's fantastic answers, are they? John Harvey also says, question, how do you allow yourself to feel love and be loved in return? I always felt too out of it to ever connect with anyone to feel anything. Yeah. I can promise you that that does happen over time. I was terrified, especially if you're like a freeze-flee. If you're a freeze-flee trauma response, feeling love and wanting to be loved, it takes some time. It takes time to establish a safe connection and to feel safe within our own bodies, feel in integrity with ourselves. It's the inner work and the outer work of working through our trauma. It's not just body work. It's not just mindfulness. It's not just meditation. It's not just that, but it's working through with a lot of different therapeutic modalities. Cognitive behavioral therapy is so excellent, especially if it's used in conjunction with doing some deep grief work, like grieving the loss of the relationship that you thought you had and you thought was safe, but it really wasn't. And then when you mix in some DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, and when you do, you're able to sit with things, you're able to breathe your way through things, but not in a way that's triggering to where you're fully present in your body and it's triggering for you if you're having body memories. So again, it's very delicate. I love that word titrate. It really describes very well, especially if you're picturing chemistry and, just throwing a whole bunch of different chemicals, it's going to explode. But if you do little bits here and there, then it's a safe fizzle. We're always going for the safe fizzle. Grace Hope says, that is so me, full of shame to the core. Oh, Grace Hope, that was me for so long, seriously. And I still struggle with bouts of shame. Like I still have bouts of shame where I struggle, and I just am not sure, gosh, how am I going to make it through this? Am I going to be okay? And especially when I'm getting close to someone, or if I'm in a particularly vulnerable situation, or I'm going to reach out to someone I haven't connected with in quite some time, I have this deep shame trigger that happens, and it sort of sends me spinning sometimes, and then I'm able to sort of work my way through it after a while, but it takes some time. So I'm hoping you'll be really patient with yourself, Grace Hope, because you're worth it. Julie says, I find that when something happens that reminds me of past experiences, I flash back to the past. But in the present, I take out my newly injured emotions on the nearest loved one. Yes, I do that too sometimes, typically with new triggers that I didn't know I had, and it's usually within a millisecond. So like in a shorter amount of time than it took me to read that sentence is when it happens. Example, like I'll hear something, or my husband will have certain body language or tone of voice with me, and it will remind me of something that I experienced in my childhood. And within a millisecond, I feel this rage inside, and I snap back, and I want to punish him, and I want to hurt him as much as I'm hurting in that moment. It's been a while, like I haven't done that lately, but I used to do that quite often, especially when I was in this like last wave of my recovery journey. So you're definitely not alone. And I'm hoping that this video, Julie, will help you sort of like have different tools for your toolbox to sort of feel better and know that you're doing everything right and certain things work and certain things don't. And also, you know, effective and healthy communication. Ooh, Harriet, can you pop up the video that talks about, it's either healthy communication or effective communication. I recorded it probably about, I think it was in January or February, I can't remember now, but March, April, May, June, like 5 or 6 months ago. Anyway, that's a really, really, really good one if we're struggling with this particular situation, Julie. Because if we're able to effectively and safely and in a healthy way communicate to our loved ones, this is what is happening. I feel this way. I understand that my response to this is unacceptable and my intention was not to hurt you. I would prefer to act this way, and you know, will you accept my apology? Or even if they're doing something that's triggering you, and you can establish that open, healthy dialogue with them, like, when you say or do these things, I feel triggered. I need you to try not to do those things. I would prefer that instead of doing this, you would do this instead, you know? So I hope that helps. When I realize, oh, this is still Julie. When I realize this has happened, usually much later, I'm filled with shame. How do I walk away from this cycle? I really don't like it. Hopefully hopefully the answer I just gave you will help. I think healthy communication will definitely help. And you can't handle everything on your own. If it's a close loved one, then hopefully if something that they're saying or doing is triggering you, then you're able to communicate with them and say, hey, I'm struggling with these particular triggers, and it would help me out so much if perhaps you would say, excuse me, if you would say this and this instead of saying this. Does that make sense? Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm getting ready to travel tomorrow to go see my daughter-in-law graduate. And so whenever I get ready to travel, I always seem like I have a little bit more stress in my life because traveling can be stressful, and then I end up with a scratchy throat. So my apologies for all of the breaks of taking so much water. Jamie Strong. Hi, Jamie. Jamie Strong says, all feelings hurt. That sounds like the first 22 years of my life. I didn't have any feelings. Yes. Oh my gosh, Jamie, I have so oh, by the way, thank you, Jamie, for your offer of help volunteering in our community as well. You were one of the ones I left out earlier. I will definitely be getting back to you guys as soon as I possibly can. I'm trying to coordinate with Harriet and get it all sort of set up to where you guys can volunteer, because I need the help for sure. But yeah, when we don't feel anything for the first like 22 years of our life or whatever, I'm familiar with that. In fact, I would do things just to see if I could feel anything, you know, and that can be very unhealthy sometimes too. That can be an unhealthy pattern. I felt like I was sort of invincible in certain ways. Like I was so used to like trauma that like daily normal living or life was something that seemed like to not affect me. So like for instance, when my son was like, I want to say he was 2, I decided that I was gonna go racing and go car racing. And I went to the drag races with someone, and I was racing this car. I ended up crashing this race car at a drag strip into the center divider. My son and my dad were watching on the sidelines. But I mean, just thrill-seeking behavior and just dumb stuff. Like I would just up and just go on road trips and just travel to like other countries without even thinking, and like going to Mexico by myself. And I mean, I just did dumb things, and because I didn't have a gauge, my frontal lobe was so damaged from soaking in a toxic soup of adrenaline and cortisol that I didn't have proper, like my frontal lobe wasn't even developed. I was making very impulsive decisions. It was not smart of me. But I know now that it is a result of me experiencing a lot of trauma at a young age, and I have less shame surrounding that now. So hopefully you can get to a place where you have less shame surrounding that, Jamie, because it's not all your fault. You know, this stuff doesn't just happen out of thin air. You know, you went through a lot of stuff. Julie says, when I feel other people I care about always get hurt. Why is that? When I feel other people I care about always get hurt. Oh, I understand what you're saying. So when you feel things, other people seem to get hurt as a result of you feeling them. That sounds to me like there is some codependency going on, where the way you feel or the way somebody else feels is dependent on the other one. And we need to always make sure that we know, like, this is me and this is something I'm feeling and this is not someone else's, or this is something I'm responsible for and that is something you're responsible for. You are not responsible for my feelings. I'm not responsible for your feelings. I understand that me experiencing this could affect you. However, I'm going to experience this in my own way, and it would be best if perhaps you went and gave me some space to experience this. Again, I think through healthy communication that can really be helpful. But it's common. It's common for, but I would encourage you to reword it too, though, because you've used the word always here. They always get hurt whenever you feel. And when we feed ourselves those messages, it creates fear in us so that we end up going the opposite end of the spectrum, which is to not feel anything. So I would take the word always and I would ask you to reframe it. And like, is it really always, or is it like 3 times out of 10? Is it 7 times out of 10? So then I would ask, we would go further and we would say, okay, well, the 3 times out of 10 or the 7 times out of 10 or whatever it might be that other people don't get hurt when you feel, what's different about the experience? Let's go into that. What's different? And then what steps did you take to make sure that that was different? So hopefully that's helpful. Kalisha says, yes, I had come to believe that all feelings hurt, even happiness. I had become stoic or numb for years. I will say this, stoicism is very popular in our community. If you're not familiar with the term stoicism or to be a stoic, like as a philosophy, stoicism as a philosophy, I will feel this way or that way, and you will never be able to tell because I will hold it all in. And there is a reason for this, Kalisha, and anyone else that resonates with this. We were expertly trained, if our abuse happened within our family of origin, we were expertly trained to learn how to be stoic. Stoicism was a philosophy that we lived by without not even by choice. We, oops. Sorry about the dinging in the messages, guys. I'm preparing for my trip, and that's what's going on. So, but yeah, stoicism is something that we adopted as a philosophy without even trying, because we were experiencing so much trauma. So to be stoic means that you can feel any which way and it doesn't show on your face. There's no outward expression of feeling. And you know, oftentimes there is a numbness. We talked about numbness previously, and Kathy Bobathy actually mentioned a couple of things on the broadcast where we talked about numbness and flat affect versus mood. And, you know, trauma complicates all of that, especially complex trauma, which is what we're dealing with here on this YouTube channel. Whenever there's complex trauma involved, things don't look the same as they normally do. They're complicated. And when we When we are numb, it's not even that we're always numb. Or if we feel, it's not even that we always feel that way. It can flip and flop around. It can be very complex, and it can be hard to heal because we think, okay, I finally nailed that down. That's how I'm going to feel. I'm going to feel that way instead. And I'm going to heal this way. And we want it to be linear and neat. And sadly, we as complex trauma survivors, all we crave is something that's linear and neat and simple. And the very nature of the trauma we experienced is what causes the simplicity and the linear anything to elude us. Nothing about healing from complex trauma is in a linear fashion. It always comes in waves. It takes a long time. It's never a one and done. It's never the same for two people. No two people heal the same way. It's so frustrating, and I really want to validate anyone that's frustrated by all of this, because it is very frustrating. And you know, we're dealing with the hand we were dealt, and we're doing the very best we can by being here with one another. So I'm just commending all of you guys for being here, because you don't have to be here. This is voluntary. Hunter says, I only feel like I can be me at night in my room. Could that be shame linked as if the darkness shrouds me from others' eyes? Absolutely. You nailed it. You nailed it, Hunter. A lot of survivors, and it will be different for other survivors. Like some survivors only feel themselves if they're in their car. They only feel themselves if it's daylight. They only feel themselves if they're in a movie theater, or if no one can see them, if it's dark outside. Or they only feel themselves if they wear certain types of clothing, or if they attend certain types of events. That's the only time they ever feel truly them. And it's shame-based. I will only be acceptable if fill in the blank. It's a deep, 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 deep core belief that we don't even verbalize or even know that it's a core belief. We just realize, I find that I only like to eat at these types of restaurants. I find that I only like to wear these types of clothing. I find that I only like to attend these types of events. I find that I only feel comfortable at this time of day. And it is shame-based. It is shame-based. T says, I try to stay in the moment, but I can't control when I am. I disappear in my head, kind of goes numb, sometimes completely, sometimes just faint. What is this, and why does it happen? I try to stay in the moment, but I can't control when I am. I disappear, and my head goes numb, sometimes completely, and then sometimes I just faint. Well, what you're describing to me is shame and trauma. I mean, it's likely toxic shame, and it's trauma. You've experienced trauma in some way, and that's your body responding. Wherever you're at in those situations, you've said when you try to stay in the moment, that leads me to believe that it might not be time for you to practice mindfulness techniques or meditation or trying to be fully present in your body. It's too traumatizing for you at the time. I would go back to the one page, rewind the video, and try to stay on the outer edges of your trauma with a trauma-informed practitioner, and only address things at a slow way. Check in with your body often. How am I? How am I feeling? Am I okay? Am I present? Am I numb? Am I feeling like I'm going to pass out? Is my head numb? Is my skin prickly or tingly? What's going on with me? Check in with your body. That would be my recommendation. Julie says, sometimes people say or do things that bring back old pain. When they do, I flash back to that situation. Oh, wait, I already read that one. Sorry. Grace Hope says, I have to even go to happy. Oh, I hate to even go to happy because it will end soon, and that dropping back down to sadness is so painful. Yes, that is straight up textbook emotophobia. We're afraid to feel anything. We're afraid to feel happiness because then what happens when it goes back to sadness? I know what that feels like. I don't want to feel that. And so since I don't want to feel sadness, which is eventual all the time, 100%, then I don't even want to feel happy. Why bother? And a lot of that, of course, the root is in trauma, but a lot of that is shame-based. So if we were raised in an environment where we were treated a certain way or looked at a certain way, or there was like a vibe or an overall like undercurrent throughout our formative years, that no matter what we did, if we were happy, if we were sad, if we were good, if we were bad, whatever, none of it was ever good enough. And everything was sort of shifting sand. There was no firm foundation. Then that we're going to experience exactly what Grace Hope just talked about, for sure. Where you don't even want to feel happy. You don't, like, why bother? Because you're just going to end up feeling sad. That's definitely childhood complex trauma for sure. And it's devastating. And I want to just really reel it in and talk about, it's super duper duper important that you get involved, like Grace has. Grace is very involved in community within our support groups. And as you show up in the support groups and you share something, like if you share like a win, then that win gets like magnified and people go, wow, that's amazing. Congratulations. I'm so happy for you. Or even if you show up in a support group and you say, you know, I had a really rough week. These are the things that happened. Usually you will have support that's shown to you, or that happened to me as well. Wow, me too. And there's the shame that is attached to the feeling that you're having dissipates as other people weigh in and bear witness to what it is that you have experienced and are experiencing. Hopefully that was helpful, Grace Hope. Alexis, hi Alexis. Alexis says, I've been using titration for feelings, but I cannot seem to do it with anger. The moment I try to work with it in therapy, I dissociate. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. This happened to me, Alexis. Sometimes whenever you share your stories, I think we lived like a very similar life because in fact, I just recently started EMDR again. My first appointment was on Friday. So I'm so excited. But what I was going to say, Alexis, is one of the things I put as one of my goals in therapy, in EMDR, is that I would be able to appropriately express my anger, express appropriate levels of anger. And I need to do it within the context of a therapeutic relationship, I know, because that works for me. And eventually I can have muscle memory and then be able to experience anger like in a healthy way. But that is something I struggle with. And Alexis, I'm certain that you are not shocked by this, but it definitely comes from complex trauma and not being allowed to emote, especially emote in a way that was not positive. If you were forced to always be positive or always be kind or compliant, and you were never allowed to experience healthy anger as a child, like, you know, like a normal tantrum that a child would experience, or being upset because you don't want to be in your high chair anymore, or you are angry because someone stole your toy, or, you know, things that children experience. If you're never allowed to emote in a healthy way as a child, then the probability of you being able to emote in a healthy way, specifically anger, as an adult, the chances are very, very slim, unless you can get within the context of a therapeutic relationship with someone who's trauma informed, and they can bring you to a place where they almost like intentionally trigger you to emote anger or ask you questions that are indirect, like not about you, that might cause you to feel angry, but then titrate that with healthy forms of expression and always in the context of a safe environment. So does that help? I hope it does. It's helped me, and I struggle with the same thing. So I'm hoping that helps, Alexis. Oh boy, there's a lot of other questions. I'm almost at time. I have 5 minutes, but I'm gonna do the very best I can. Okay, guys. Joey says, my therapist tells me that when I get angry, it is okay to feel that. But for me, it is scary and it throws me into flashbacks. Yes, I don't allow myself to get angry because it hurts too much. My mom and my grandma just came over and I was angry that they just walked right in, but I felt I couldn't get angry because I didn't want to go into a flashback. How do I work on that? Oh goodness, that is a loaded question, but I'm going to be as brief as possible because I want to make sure I try to get to everybody's questions. But Joey, the way that if that were me, I've lived that, by the way. When I lived on the mainland before I moved, my family of origin, they just sort of like, they stopped by whenever they wanted to. They didn't have to call or whatever. That wasn't a boundary that I ever felt comfortable establishing because there were no boundaries in my family. So if you come from a family where there are no boundaries in your family of origin, it can be really difficult and really painful to establish and maintain your very, very first healthy boundaries. But the way you do this is you say something like, when you come over to my house unannounced and you walk right in without knocking or whatever, when you fill in the blank, I feel violated. I feel like I wish I had a few minutes to get ready. I would prefer if you would send me a text and let me know you're here or call first or whatever. I need you to let me know you've heard me and that you will try to do this in the future. So that is the only way I know to establish and maintain a healthy boundary, like especially your very, very first ones. I happen to have the luxury and the privilege of knowing a little bit more about Joey's story than someone who's just now watching this video for the first time and isn't a member of our community. And I will say this, Joey, like brutal, brutal honesty, truth, and love, your mother and your grandmother are not safe people. And so I would work towards establishing and maintaining very healthy boundaries and not allowing people who are not safe people to be around you, because it affects your mental and emotional well-being, and we become suicidal at worst and very self-defeating at best when we allow ourselves to be surrounded by toxic people that are not safe. So that's my 2 cents on that. And I hope that's helpful. Jamie says, ouch, toxic programming, crowding our potential, harsh inner critic, limiting beliefs, so close to home. Me too. Oh my goodness, like that describes like my whole entire life prior to healing and doing my best to get healthy and, you know, creating some healthy boundaries in my life. And seriously, really, really painful. You are not alone. I definitely feel your pain. Paul says, hi Paul, welcome back. Paul says, living in, I wonder if everybody's still here. This was probably, oh gosh, Paul might not still be here. This was like 45 minutes ago. So sorry, Paul. Living in the moment can be hard when the moment can feel like forever, especially during flashbacks. Yes, I want to agree with Paul, and I want to encourage you guys that if you're in the middle of a flashback, mindfulness is not something that is going to help if you've never addressed your trauma. So while grounding techniques definitely help during a flashback, it's not necessarily needing to do deep breathing and mindfulness that is going to help you completely through that flashback. There is a trick to disengage your hypothalamus, and that's by soaking your hands in ice water, and it sends like a message to your brain and the area of your brain that will help you get grounded and be fully present for the moment, but not in a way that's triggering. So I would say definitely reach out to somebody who's trauma informed, and I'm sorry that I'm answering your questions so late, you guys. Paul McCormick, I'm sorry I answered so late. John Harvey, this was like 45 minutes ago also. So sorry. Why is it being betrayed by people I trusted gave me more issues to deal with? After years of not trusting people, I thought I found someone I could trust, but I was wrong. Yes, there is a reason why betrayal is so painful for us as adult survivors of complex trauma. And that is that complex trauma almost always, but not always, but usually happens within the context of a relationship over a long period of time which means we trusted that person. And there's a betrayal, a deep betrayal that goes along with the abuse that happened over a long period of time. There could even be some trauma bonding that's going on there. And the betrayal is compounded exponentially if the abuse was enabled by siblings, aunts, uncles, grandparents, neighbors, friends, boyfriends, in-laws, etc., etc., etc. It's betrayal upon betrayal upon betrayal upon betrayal upon betrayal. And it's all we've ever had. And then the fabric of our reality of anyone that we thought was safe or good, even the good memories, are no longer good because we're like, how did they not know? Okay, they knew. They knew. They knew and they did nothing about it. And that is so betraying. That betrayal of that trust is so painful because we have literally come to the conclusion that this is why we've struggled our whole entire lives, because of our trauma. Oh my gosh, it's done this to our brain. It eroded these neurotransmitters and it caused me to have these behaviors, these maladaptive coping strategies, and food was my drug, and I do this, and I had this eating disorder, and I was over-exercising, and I was doing this, and then destroyed this relationship, and so I decided to drink that or take that, and now I'm feeling this way. And so we unravel it all the way back to the betrayal, and then the betrayal of all the people who knew about it, that enabled it. And so the reason betrayal is so triggering for us now is because it's reminiscent of what happened to us back in the day and the reason why our lives have been so challenging. So not a happy answer, but it's definitely explained some stuff. I hope that was helpful. Jack says, this is a hard one for me, but I'll put it out there. I am coming to grips with my own abuse, but I'm struggling to process my eldest child's abuse. I still blame myself. What? Oh, I don't know. I don't know what else it says. I'm not sure that this is on topic for tonight. I want to stay on topic, Jack. And honestly, it's really hard. The topic of our children being abused and how to deal with that guilt. The answer to that is like, it's so simple, but it's so complex. What's going to happen is there needs to be a pulling apart of every single situation that was, the whole situation and all of the surrounding people involved, and then realizing who we're responsible for and which parts of all of it could we have controlled and which parts could we never have controlled. And then coming to grips with asking forgiveness from the person who was abused and then forgiving ourselves. So it's very, very, very long, drawn out process, but over time, it's very healing. And I know I have experience with this where there's a loved one that's abused. Is it my fault? What part did I play? I wished I could have avoided it, et cetera, et cetera. And you have to really document all of it and then go back and find out what parts belong to you and what parts belong to other people. And then if necessary or if it's appropriate, ask the person that was abused forgiveness for not doing more. And if they forgive you, then it's a point where you have to forgive yourself. And that can be a long road. Forgiving ourselves is a long road, but I'm going to stay on topic for the rest of the night. Gabby Kitty says, my mom is very triggering and I am low contact with her. When I do talk with her, I have a hard time being present. Tips needed, especially now as I've started another wave of memories. Okay, first of all, welcome Gabby Kitty. I'm so excited. Excellent question. Super on topic. It is difficult to remain fully present, especially with people we are low contact with. And I would say this, you do not need to remain fully present with people you are low contact and no contact with. The whole purpose of you being low contact and no contact is to not be fully present with them. The reason you're not able to be fully present with some people is because your subconscious mind knows that that's not a safe person. And it's not safe for you to be fully present with them because they will re-traumatize you. And it could be very detrimental. So I'm hoping and praying that that you can find a trauma-informed practitioner to help you with this new wave of memories. Don't try to do it on your own. Please don't try to do it on your own. And please don't try to force yourself to be fully present with people who are toxic, because that is self-sacrificing, and it is void of any compassion, void of any self-compassion or self-love. And I need you to really do your best to find ways to embrace self-acceptance, accept yourself exactly as you are, radically accept yourself exactly where you are, in spite of and regardless of what happened to you because of the people that you are going low contact, no contact with. You're not going low contact, no contact with someone because nothing happened. You're going low contact, no contact with someone because they have proved to be a toxic person, and it's in your best interest likely to establish and maintain some healthy boundaries with them. So that can be really hard, but I hope that's helpful for you, Gabby, and I'm so happy you're here. Amanda says, amen, Athena, bye-bye, toxicity. Alexis says, I have gone no contact with my father for the past 8 years. I have been told I can come to the house to get belongings of my mother who died in 2008. I do not know how to respond. Alexis, one word, buffer. I would recommend bringing a buffer. If you are going to attend a toxic environment that was part of your abuse, or someone is going to be there that was part of your abuse, smells, people, things, situations are going to remind you of your abuse, bring a buffer. Bring someone who is a safe person, like the safest person you know, who knows your abuse history, knows that you're no contact, fully supports your recovery. Bring them with you and make sure they're there, and have a plan. Get help. Bring 2 people if you can. Someone to help you pack up stuff, and then someone to be that buffer that keeps a lookout or communicates with the unsafe, toxic people that are going to be there. That's what I would do. In fact, I did have to do that. So that was hard. But you can do it. I know you can. August says, I'm feeling so much shame lately. Oh, August, I'm so sorry. I have waves of shame that come to like certain times of year. I've been having, I had a memory during my session on Friday that I have been living with body dysmorphia since I was 7 years old. I remember hating my body at 7 years old. I remembered that. And I hadn't put 2 and 2 together, but it just caused me to feel so much more shame in realizing, like, oh my goodness, I've been living with body dysmorphia since I was 7. Like, how am I ever going to recover from something I've been living with for like 35 years, right? So I would say just be gentle with yourself and embrace the amazing survivor that you are, the amazing woman you are, and surround yourself with people who know your worth and know how awesome you are, all of us. And there's nothing I can say that's going to make your shame go away, but I do hope that you can embrace that we love you just as you are, and you're not alone. I'm going through something similar even right now as I'm going into another wave of EMDR. So it still doesn't take it away. I'm sorry, August. James says, how do you know who is guaranteed safe? Great question. Great question, James. So there's a great book by Townsend and Cloud called Safe People. It's blue with a stop sign on the front. You can get it used on Amazon for a few bucks, and it is worth its weight in gold, worth more than its weight in gold. I have a copy that I've had for 11 years. And I mean, the pages are almost like shredded a little bit because I refer to it so often. It is seriously like, it should be an abuse recovery person's Bible, in my opinion. That one, and boundaries. So Safe People. Oh, you know what? I did a video. Oh, Harriet, if I have any YouTube cards left, will you pop up the video on Safe People? And link it up down below in the description, the video I did on safe people, because safe people and unsafe people have very starkly different characteristics. So James, I know that you asked your question a long time ago probably, but it's like 45 minutes ago. But I hope that you find that book, Safe People, and that you can find that video I did on safe people. Let me see here. Shane says, I'm so angry that I've been in a tax model for 6 months. That has been an uphill battle of mindfulness first. What do I do now? I don't know what a tax model, TX, what's a TX model? Is it a therapy model, like a therapeutic modality? Well, Shane, if you're still here, Shane, I know this is 45 minutes ago, I'm so sorry. But Shane, all is not lost. There's nothing wrong with mindfulness and meditation, but we need to address your trauma. The person you're with needs to be trauma informed. They need to be trauma informed, and they need to, if you have addressed part of your root trauma, then there's nothing wrong with mindfulness. It just needs to be titrated. You need to do little bits at a time, not full blown, like go and meditate for 30 minutes, being fully present in your body and like focusing on body work, because that might not be something that you're ready for. It all depends on how you're feeling. This whole video is for someone who is feeling overwhelmed with, why can't I ever be fully present? And the reasons for that could be because mindfulness and meditation, and as they are linked to toxic shame, are keeping you from being able to be fully present if you've never processed your trauma. So I hope that helps, and that it doesn't cause you to feel worse, Shane. There's nothing wrong with mindfulness. Mindfulness is not the devil, Bobby Boucher. Mindfulness is not the devil. Mindfulness is actually really, really, really good. And I'm hoping that your trauma-informed practitioner is able to sense and know when to have you practice mindfulness and when to do CBT, when to do DBT, when to do expressive modalities, when to do body work, when to do grieving, when to do safe place imagery, when to do journaling, when to do different things. So yeah, I'm sorry, Shane. Anne, hi Anne. Anne Austin says, how do you allow yourself to be vulnerable? I truly do not understand that at all. It is not that I wouldn't ever want to, but geez, that is so dangerous. I just cannot imagine it. Thank you, by the way, Dawn, for all of your amazing moderating skills. Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful for you. Anne, this is a great question, and I'm going to close with this. This is the last question. I'm way over time, you guys. I'm so sorry. So allowing ourselves to be vulnerable is not something we should do on our own and just willy-nilly. It's not something that we should just show up in the world vulnerably. We need to discern that an environment is safe, and the way an environment is safe is if it's filled with safe people. So we do our safe people work. We study what safe people are and what unsafe people are. And we know that we've established and maintained some healthy boundaries. We know that people that we've established healthy boundaries with are not busting down those boundaries. We're with those boundary busting individuals, right, which are not safe people, because safe people respect your boundaries. And so if you are establishing and maintaining healthy boundaries and you're surrounded by safe people, then your subconscious will eventually, after the hypervigilance wears off, your subconscious will let you know that it's safe to be vulnerable. And, you know, we can override that sometimes. Our hypervigilance can override. Our subconscious wins 100 times out of 100. But what keeps us in the cycle of hypervigilance is when we have done the work. We know what a safe person is. We know what an unsafe person is. We've established and maintained the healthy boundaries. We're making sure that we're in an environment that is safe because it's a boundaried environment. I'm a boundaried individual, and I'm around safe people. Therefore, my subconscious is going to say, it's okay for me to be a little bit vulnerable. It's okay for me to just show up and be my authentic self, which is what being vulnerable is. And then the way we override that is by continuing to remain hypervigilant and using the tools that kept us alive as a young child now in our adult life. So we're adults now, and we're in charge of our daily existence. And what we do is we set ourselves up for success through surrounding ourselves with safe people, establishing and maintaining healthy boundaries so that we can show up and be vulnerable and receive deep healing. When we're open and we're vulnerable, we can get healing at an exponential level, okay? Now, the tools that kept us alive as a child during our trauma were hypervigilance and dissociation, numbing, stuffing, and avoiding. And if we continue to do those things in a safe environment with safe people while we're within a boundaried environment and we're becoming a boundaried individual, then we send ourselves in a cycle that is self-perpetuating, and it is not healthy. So we need to create for you, Anne, an environment where you feel safe. And it can start off small. It could be you in your living room, and you know that it's a safe living room because you've established and maintained with other people that they're not allowed to pop by whenever they want to. Toxic individuals are not allowed to just come to your house. They're not going to contact you. Anyone who's in the living room with you is a safe person that is not manipulative or abusive or toxic, or someone who capitalizes on your weaknesses and exploits you in any way. And so you set yourself up for success in a small way and go, okay, I'm going to allow myself to be vulnerable in this safe environment. And you sort of feel what that feels like. And until that becomes a feeling that you like and it doesn't feel super awkward and uncomfortable, you might have to test it out for 30 seconds at a time, 60 seconds, 1 minute, 5 minutes, etc. And just practice what it feels like to feel safe. We can never be vulnerable if we don't feel safe. We have to find a way to feel safe, and then we can be vulnerable, and then we can heal. It's like this multi-stepped thing. So I'm way over time, guys. I realize that that you guys probably have other questions, but I answered as many as I possibly could. Thank you so much, Dawn. And just waving hi to Matt. Hope he's having a great vacation. Thanks to all of you who volunteer and who have sent messages. I'm going to be traveling for about a week or so, and I'll be broadcasting for our live Q&A from a hotel room in a week, and it might not go as long as it did tonight. If I can get good internet, I'll be here. Sometimes the hotels I stay at have really spotty, ridiculous internet. So I'm hoping that I'll be here 1 week from tonight, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, here for live Q&A. Thank you all so much for showing up and for supporting one another. You guys are the reason this community is so powerfully transforming and healing and wonderful and beautiful. So I appreciate and I value each and every one of you. Leave a comment below letting me know what topics you would like for me to discuss, or do like you guys always do, leave me voicemails, emails, DMs, messenger messages, what have you. And I'm just grateful. So grateful for you guys. And thanks for all of your messages regarding my dad's memorial and spending time with my son, and just you guys are just so amazing. And I have a couple of community members that are in Texas that are not too far from where I'm staying in San Antonio, and they're going to meet up with me. And then I have some that are in Longview, Texas, that actually are far away, and they're road tripping it to come meet up with me. So if you are near San Antonio, Texas, and you want to meet up a week from today in the morning, ish time, please send me a message. Go to my website, athenamoberg.com, and I look forward to connecting with you guys in a week, if not. And thank you. Thank you so much for supporting one another. You guys are amazing. Bye.